Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
My goodness, what a baseball game we just watched as the Mets just barely squeak out a 4-2 11-inning win over the Pittsburgh Pirates, a game that really started out looking like it was going to be who scored first was going to win this game. It started out as a pitcher's duel between David Peterson and Mitch Keller. Keller, of course, having great numbers historically against the Mets, and that definitely preceded him today because he flat out dominated the Mets. And even when they did finally get into the Pittsburgh bullpen, the Mets still looking listless at the plate. Just couldn't get much going. Didn't get a leadoff base runner in this game until the 7th inning. And then, of course, going to extras where the Pirates are able to scratch one across. The Mets able to answer in the bottom of the 10th. But as we know, that just brutal couple of appearances from the top of the Mets order in Lindor, Juan Soto, and Bichette fail to cash in with the bases loaded and nobody out. And as we saw, this game was looking like it was going to be one of those all-time painful losses. This was looking a lot like some of the losses that we saw last season in 2025. As Soto hits the little nubber, that you get the amazing play from a left-handed reliever going toward the third base line to shuffle it to home to cut down the potential game-winning run. And in the very next half inning, Richard Lovelady, after multiple DFAs, didn't have to Uber to the stadium today, I don't imagine, comes on and gets the first 2 outs of the inning, and Brian Reynolds with a swinging bunt that hugs the grass and stays fair to give the Pirates the lead again. And that's why I say this felt like it was about to be very similar to one of the losses that we suffered in 2025. And it very nearly did become that. But Luis Robert Jr., with his first Mets moment, he has shown some amazing plate discipline in these first 2 games, and he serves one over the left field wall for a 3-run walk-off homer. The New York Mets are 2-0 to start the season, and hey, not going to complain about it. Was it ugly? Absolutely, but as a win is a win is a win. What's up, guys? I'm Tony Metro. Welcome to the stream. You know the deal. Daily Mets content, post-game Mets streams after every single game, or at least as many as I can do here. You can follow me on all the other platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Links to all of those are in the description of this video down below. If you're not already subbed, go hit that sub button right now and leave this video a like. Really appreciate that. That goes a long way toward helping out the channel. We're going to go through the game a little bit more in a second. First, let's check on the chat. Sal Capello and OG. What up, Tony? What's up, Sal? Good to see you, man. Welcome into the stream. How you feeling about that W? Again, wasn't the prettiest win of all time. I'll borderline say the Mets really didn't even deserve to win that game. I mean, the Pirates just could not find a way to scratch across runs early in this game. They had something like 12 or 13 runners left on base in regulation, or whatever you want to call it, before extras, and the Mets were able to sidestep out of trouble on multiple occasions. But hey, like I said, you take the win any way you can get it. Great job out of Luis Robert Jr. hitting the walk-off. Jimmy James C, big W. Hey, you know, it's hard to say big W in March, but I'm going to agree with you, Jimmy. Big W. You didn't want to have that bad taste in your mouth going into tomorrow, having to try to win a series against let's call it what it is. The Pirates are improved. They're trying to win a little bit more this year. They invested a little bit in their lineup this season, but they're an inferior team. At least they should be for what the Mets have their goal set out for them in 2026, and that's to be a National League pennant contending team. So definitely happy to get this W here today, without a doubt, Jimmy. Plague Solo, let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Plague, welcome to the stream. Joe Saturn's streak is over. So I don't know what it means necessarily. It was last year where the Mets were, 0-70 when trailing after 8 innings last year. Didn't get a win, no comebacks after trailing, entering the 8th. So I don't know if that necessarily counts because they trailed only after the top of the 10th. But you know what? I'm fine with that. If that is what was needed to erase that negative juju and voodoo, I am totally okay with that being considered that the streak is over. Neckman, LFGM, Lou Bob. I love it. I'm going to start calling him Louie Bob. I mean, I have in a couple of my tweets. So, yeah, I like it. It's a great nickname for Luis Robert Jr. Ricardo Rios. It was a little bit dragging with the Pirate pen. Luis Torrens, clutch. Luis Torrens was tremendous last year with runners in scoring position too. If you don't remember, I don't know what I was trying to say. Really solid guy that I wanted up at the plate last year in those kinds of spots, and he came through. Unfortunately, he hit that ball on a line so hard to left field that they had to hold up the back runner on second base. Beatty came home to score as the ghost runner to tie that game, but like I said, that was a brutal job by the top of the order after that with the bases loaded and nobody out. Lindor grounding out to second. Juan Soto hitting the little tapper along the third base line that, hey, you got to tip your cap. That was a really impressive play by the Pirates reliever to shuffle it to home and cut down the potential winning run. But Bichette then, who we're going to get to Bichette because let's just call it how it is. It has not been a very pretty first two games in Mets uniform for Bichette. We will get to him, but he flies out to end that one. And then, like I said, with the Pirates, 2 outs, potential go-ahead run, ghost runner at third base in the top of the 11th against Richard Lovelady. Does a good job to get the first 2 outs, and it's a little swinging bunt single that hugs the third base line and stays fair. Like I said, this was about to go down as one of those ugly, really frustrating losses had the Mets not came back. But thanks to Louie Bob, we don't have to worry about it. Steve Getlindor out of the leadoff spot. He struggles for 2 months every season. I'm not going to make that change. I like Lindor in the leadoff spot. I mean, I don't know where you'd want to put him. Like, we just saw what Luis Robert Jr. did today, hitting in the 5 spot and some of the great at-bats that he has given us so far this year. And, obviously only 2 games, but I don't know who else you would want to be leadoff at this point. I guess you could consider putting a rookie Carson Bench with 2 games of Major League Baseball experience in there, but I really think you just got to kind of ride it out with Lindor until he does eventually get going, and I think it'll come soon. Don't forget, 3 walks, 3 runs scored on opening day. Yeah, today didn't get any hits. He's still, I think, 0 for 7 to start the year, but still found a way to help the team a little bit, especially on opening day with those walks and coming around to score. Steve says, Jimmy James, breaking the no comeback streak is huge. I mean, look, the way I look at it, yeah, it's big, but at the same time, this is a completely different team from last year's team. So these guys aren't coming up to the plate or getting up on the mound with that same mentality as that group was, because they didn't experience it. They weren't here for it. They weren't the fault or the reason that the Mets failed to have any comeback wins after entering the 8th and trailing in 2025. So yes, I think from a fan standpoint, it's nice that they were able to get over that little mountaintop, but I don't think that's something that the players on this actual roster are thinking about. I mean, they shouldn't be, because they weren't a part of that group from last year for the most part. Let's see. El just saying, taking Benj out wasn't a good choice, although Vientos snuck it through the hole. Hey, nice to see Mark Vientos get a base hit in this one as well. That was great. I mean, yes, a little base hit that sneaks through the left side of the infield, but man, if anybody needed a base hit, it was Mark Vientos, who we know has been struggling through spring in the World Baseball Classic, his time with Nicaragua. So nice to see Vientos come up in a pinch hitting spot and get that opportunity. I think that was the right call, especially against a lefty. We saw Carson Benj taking at bat, I believe it was in the 7th or 8th inning against a left-hander, and struck out to strand a runner or 2. So I think that was actually the right choice to pinch hit with Vientos there. You obviously couldn't do it in the 9 hole because Luis Torrens, it was actually Francisco Alvarez, who had drawn a walk earlier, was removed for a pinch runner in Tyrone Taylor. And so, of course, Luis Torrens, your only remaining catcher, had to take his at bat in the 9 spot. So I was A-okay with Mark Vientos getting the pinch hitting spot there for Carson Bench. Ricardo Rios put it in the books. Love to see it. Absolutely. A-Rod agrees. Send Lindor down in the 5 spot. It'll be tough on opposing pitchers having to pitch Lindor after dealing with the top of the order. Send him back up to 1 in June. I got to say, I don't see there being any changes coming to this lineup. I'm not saying that it's a bad idea to do it or to at least think about it, but Mendoza's been pretty steadfast in keeping his guys in the spots that either they have expressed they are most comfortable in, or that they as an organization believe they will be put in the best position to succeed in. So I don't really see a change to the lineup coming. Look, this is a group that just the other day scored 11 runs, albeit some of it aided by some poor defense and maybe some wind at Citi Field. But nonetheless, they just put up 11 runs. Look, it was 40 degrees and windy today. Like, nobody wanted to be out there. Even the Pirates were struggling to score any runs. Like I said, I think it was 12 runners left on base from Pittsburgh through the first 9 innings of this game. So none of these guys seemed like they wanted to be out there in that type of cold weather. But I am just happy we are talking about a W and not about a just gut-wrenching loss, which I think this would have fit the definition. I mean, really, because of how that bottom of the 10th went with the bases loaded, the top of the order, not being able to come through and even just hit a ball into the outfield. And then with the way that the Pirates ended up scoring their second run of the game in the top of the 11th. Again, the guy on third, 2 outs, little bunt single from Brian Reynolds, and it ends up bringing home the potential winning run. That would have been a really tough loss. We got more to get into here. Let me finish with the chat real quick. Adam, sorry I'm late. Don't be sorry you're late. Welcome to the chat, man. Danny Caps, first 2-0 start in 4 years. Didn't realize that. That's nice to hear. I mean, not about how you start, about how you finish, but I'll take it. 2-0. Sal Capella, Lindor, not dropping a 5, maybe in the 3 spot, but not 5. Yeah, we'll see. So far, and let's get into it. Bo Bichette has not looked very comfortable so far at the plate. He did get his first base hit today as a New York Met, slash one down the right field line. So nice to see him get off the schneid and kind of get the first one out of the way. But yeah, Bichette has been uber aggressive at the plate, and to a fault now. We saw it a little bit on Thursday in that 13 pitch at bat with the bases loaded, where he ended up striking out, swung at a lot of pitches out of the zone, up above the letters, down around the knees and the feet. This is who Bo Bichette is, though. He is a free swinger. He is a guy that likes to go out of the zone sometimes. Now, the plus side is he's one of the most elite bat-to-ball contact hitters in all of baseball. So he's going to get his eventually, or at least he has shown in the past that he can go out of the zone and still put up really solid numbers. But early on so far, it has looked like he's been trying to maybe do a little bit too much in some of those spots. We saw it again today. I think he had first and second at one point in this game and ended up striking out on a couple of pitches out of the zone. I believe that would have been in the 8th inning, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 8th inning. So Bichette's been a little out of sorts. And then, of course, we should talk about the defense as well. Bichette, a couple weird plays. There was one where he actually backhanded it, made the throw on the first, no problem, but there were at least 2 others, maybe 3. I think it was 2 others that took Jorge Polanco off the bag at first base. One of them resulting in an error for Bichette. So we have the first error from Bo Bichette, first throwing error at third base. We know the narrative. Preaching run prevention from this team. They are putting 2 guys at new positions they've never played for on the corner infield spots this year. And we got a little bit of a mixed bag from Jorge Polanco too. I think it was the first inning. He knocked the ball down and didn't exactly play it. He kind of olayed it. He was able to stick with it, throw it on to David Peterson. And then there was another play where it could have been considered an error. It did go down as a hit against Peterson. I think that would have been in the 4th inning. Could have easily gone down as an error on Polanco, but it did get scored as a base hit for the Pirates. But look, there are going to be some growing pains for these guys at their new positions. I have long said I still think Brett Beatty should be the guy at first base. Polanco, I think, will get more comfortable there and be serviceable. I'm a little worried about Bo Bichette, I'm not going to lie. And I said that, since spring training, I thought that he'd be competent there. I still do believe that's possible, but we knew from his time with Toronto playing at shortstop, throws were really the thing that gave him the biggest issues. Not necessarily his glove and his range and getting to balls left to right and charging, but it was his throws over to first base across the diamond that were the biggest struggle for Bichette. So we saw a little bit of that so far in these first 2 games. So let me know in the comment section, guys, what do you think? Are you worried about Bichette and his arm over at third? And how do you feel about Polanco defensively at first base? I do want to say Jorge Polanco has really impressed me at the plate, has really put up some tremendous at-bats and shown me a lot. We obviously didn't see a whole lot of Polanco throughout his career to this point. mainly has played in the American League. Most recently was playing out in Seattle, where he had some really impressive postseason moments last year, including a two home run game off of Tariq Skubal and a game-winning, or it might have been a walk-off hit for the Mariners as well against the Tigers or somebody. It doesn't matter. Anyway, really, really impressive plate appearances from Jorge Polanco. Look, he doesn't get a hit today, 0 for 2 in this one, but this is what I want you to look at. 3 walks right here. And his walk in front of Luis Robert Jr. obviously gives him the chance for the walk-off home run in this game. So the batting average, it's only at 200. You're probably going to be a little concerned maybe seeing that in the box score, 0 for 2. But I have been very impressed by the professional at-bats that Polanco has put up. Really good plate discipline so far from both sides of the plate. That walk there in the bottom of the 11th came from the right side of the plate. So really, really impressed with what Polanco has brought so far as his at-bats. Other than that, look, yeah, it's an 0 for 5 for Lindor. Obviously, not a great day. Grounds that one to the right side. Gary said it on the broadcast. It was almost a carbon copy of that play in Game 7 of the World Series last year for Toronto, where Miguel Vargas was able to throw the runner out at the plate that would have potentially won it for them. But look, yeah, it's not been a great start for Lindor, but I do feel like he's had some very comfortable at-bats. He hasn't looked overmatched, swinging out of his shoes, fooled by breaking balls. I know he got caught looking for his only strikeout so far this year on a fastball down the middle, it was actually a sinker up and in against Gregory Soto. But I am not ready to panic about him or to move him out of the order. That's not what I'm thinking at this point. I think we need to just be a little bit more patient, and I know nobody wants to hear that, but I think that Lindor is going to be just fine and come around sooner than later. Blast Radius, hey, what a win. No doubt about it, Blast. That was a great one, right? Let's see, who else do we got here? Danny Caps, Robert Jr., first walk-off since 2020. Love to hear it. Adam. Danny Caps, Bo looks like he's trying to kill the ball. I mean, yeah, Bo has been just swinging out of his shoes. It's not looked very comfortable. Like I said, defensively, we know there's going to be some growing pains for Bichette, but yeah, it's not looked great so far for Bo Bichette at the plate and defensively as well. I'm with you. Jr. not having to be the guy, just a guy, might make him have a great year. And look, that was what you wanted to convince yourself when the Mets traded for Luis Robert Jr. And that is what a lot of people throughout baseball that wanted their teams to acquire Robert were saying. Look, he has been just hanging out in Chicago with a team that is on pace to consistently lose 90 to 100 games over the last couple of years. So I think a lot of people thought if you could just put him into a lineup where he doesn't have to be the guy, just be a guy. Really well said by you there. This is exactly what the Mets were hoping for. And again, it's only 2 games, but I made the video the other day and I said it in my stream. I thought that Robert Jr.'s walk in the first inning on Thursday, opening day, was the most important at-bat of the entire afternoon in their 11-7 win. And obviously here today, draws a walk, one in the 7th inning, and then here, obviously, the walk-off 3-run homer here, and he's the hero. So let's hope, fingers crossed, this continues and that Robert Jr. is going to be a changed guy because of the new scenery here. Let's see who else we got. Neckman, Bo got to get used to playing in New York. I see him adjusting with no issue. Not worried. Let them adjust. They are major leaguers. Yeah, you hope that's the case. The only thing is, as Mets fans, we have seen so many, even veteran and major leaguers and even super successful ones in the past just not be able to hack it in New York. And I am not starting that conversation by any means, trying to say that Bo can't play in New York. No, by no means at all. But we have seen examples of it in the past where stars from other parts of the league come to New York and it just doesn't work out for some reason. So I do not think that will be the case. I will give him a long leash, and obviously the results so far, not what we want, not what I'm sure he wants, but I do believe that Bo will get things turned around here. Blast Radius, let's remember the Pirates respecting Robert Jr.'s arm, saved a couple runs. Look, the Pirates really are looking to me like a pretty sloppy team. Defensively, they were a mess on Thursday, but today, obviously, no fielding miscues, but how they did not, and this could have been the difference. I mean, Robert does end up hitting a 3-run homer, but how they did not send Brian Reynolds from second Was it from first? It was from first. I'm sorry. I'm thinking in the bottom, top of the 11th on Marcelo Zuna's hit down the right field line. Jared Young got over to it, but I thought it was going to be 3-1 at that point. I was shocked that they held Brian Reynolds up there, especially with 2 outs. That is similar to the play last year when the Mets held up Tyrone Taylor against Cleveland, and it ended up costing them that game. The Pirates, to me, man, they have made some mistakes, both in terms of defensively and I think base running today, and being a little too conservative and not as aggressive as they should be. So you'll take it any way you can get it. But yeah, I definitely think that the Pirates gifted the Mets a couple of runs by not being more aggressive on the base bats there in the extra innings. Let's see what else. Blast rate is very concerned with Bo at third base, not so much at the plate. All right, well, that's good at least. Yes, I am concerned defensively. It has not looked pretty yet. We'll see. Maybe the weather warms up. Maybe that helps him out a little bit, but definitely not great. Blast radius, do you think this will wake Vientos up? I hope so. Look, playing time is going to be kind of few and far between for Mark Vientos. Gary said on the broadcast, Mets don't face a left-handed starter until the 6th game of the season. So, I mean, look, he's not going to get a ton of opportunities unless there's a left-handed starter on the mound where he'll DH and Beatty will either sit or go to first base. So he's going to get his spots and pinch hitting opportunities just like he did today. And I hope that this wakes him up and gets him going. And look, if Vientos starts hitting like he did in 2024, you're not going to keep him on the bench. You will put him at DH and you will have to reconfigure the roster or lineup in some fashion. It's hard to say how you do that right now, but we'll see what Beatty does. Look, got robbed on what looked like was going to be a walk-off hit in the 9th inning on that line drive that Polanco ended up getting doubled off of second on. But Beatty had the triple. Possibly could have been caught by O'Neal Cruz if he had a better read of that on Thursday. But, I've seen a little bit of good. I've seen a little bit of not so great from Beatty so far. So what is Brett Beatty going to be? But I do hope this gets Vientos going. It's hard to be a pinch hitter and not know how many opportunities you're going to get each week and start to get in a groove. But, man, you get 2024 Mark Vientos. And this is a entirely different looking lineup. So, Biscuits, Juice, Bob Blue, LGM, let's go. I love it. Ray, Tony, Luis Robert is becoming my favorite Met ASAP. I mean, that was awesome. The at-bat he put up Thursday, some of the at-bats he put up today. He had a nice catch Thursday. And then I knew that ball was gone off the bat. I mean, I'm just saying, I was pretty certain it was gone. Gary was a little hesitant on the call, but it looked to me like it was going to get out, and it definitely did. And look, I love to see Juan Soto, one of the first guys in that little home plate greeting dog pile for Luis Robert as he touches across home plate. So that was really nice to see Soto getting in on the action there. Let's see who else we got here. Ray Blast. Let's do this, guys. Let's go through the rest of the game. Obviously, it was a little slow to begin this one. I think it was just pitchers do a 1-2-3 for David Peterson, 1-2-3 for Mitch Keller, 1-2-3 for David Peterson in the second. Brett Beatty got a base hit, little blooper off of Mitch Keller in the second, and the Mets didn't do anything with it. Marcus Semien with the ground out. After that, though, that's when the Pirates started to put together some traffic on the base pass against the Pirates, against David Peterson. Third inning, you had 2 base hits in that one, and then obviously he was able to get out of it. In the 4th inning, you had David Peterson go back out and have to sidestep a little more trouble again, but again, that was started because of the Bo Bichette throwing error to first base. So you had the throwing error, then a base hit to put the first 2 runners aboard. It was, I think, first and second at that point, first and third. Peterson with a big strikeout of Nick Gonzalez, though, there in the bottom of the 5th, and then able to get a fielder's choice for 6. And finally, the 4 unassisted ground out up the middle that Marcus Semien was able to take to second base himself there to get out of trouble. So that was nice. Adam in Kansas City. Who's in Kansas City? You? Tony HVAC, I finally caught it live. Tony, welcome to the stream, man. I'm glad you're in here, dude. Welcome. I know we kind of crapped out a little bit earlier in this one, but hopefully it's all looking fluid and good on your guys' end now. So, but yeah, look, David Peterson looked pretty sharp in this one, really working fast those first 2 innings or so. Like I said, ran into a little bit of traffic on the base pass in the 3rd, the 4th, and then the 5th inning as well. Got the first 2 outs of the 5th inning before a base hit back-to-back base hits from Triolo and O'Hearn at the top of the order, and then was able to, ended up walking Brian Reynolds to load the bases. And then, of course, Marcelo Zuna, the Met killer of all Met killers, coming up with the bases loaded. But really impressive job by David Peterson to bend, not break, get the pop out there, and end the threat in that bottom of the 5th inning. To the 6th, the Mets went. David Peterson back out there. Nice to see him working, and it ended up being another error, or I guess it was considered a hit. Jorge Polanco was a hard hit ball down the first baseline, but I don't know how I would have called it. Maybe because I am really closely analyzing and scrutinizing Bichette and Polanco at their respective positions, but I probably would have called that ball off the bat of Nick Gonzalez to Jorge Polanco in the top of the 6th, an error. But it ended up going down as a hit, the 6th of the day against Peterson. He got a pop-up from Lau, and then York was able to get a little hit into right field to make it 1st and 2nd. Then he got the strikeout of Joey Bart. That is when he actually ended his day, and the Mets went to Huascar Brazoban. And I wanted to get to Huascar Brazoban because he played as integral a part in this game as I think anybody. We got a couple other heroes in this one that we'll touch on, but Huascar Brazoban comes into the game with 1 out in the 6th inning and runners on 1st and 2nd, and quickly disposes of Joey Bart, a 3-pitch strikeout for the 2nd out of that one. And then the very next pitch gets Jake Mangum, I don't know, to pop out and end the inning. 4 pitches to get 2 outs and end the 1st and 2nd threat in the top of the 6th inning. Hats off to Huascar Brazoban. If we could get the Brazoban that we saw in the beginning of last year, that is going to go a long way toward making this a strong bullpen. We know he was overused, both him and Reed Garrett, for the first 2.5 months of the season. Both of them ended up suffering injuries and then having, little speed bumps in the road throughout the year. If the Mets hopefully are deeper as they believe they are, then they may not have to rely on them as heavily as they did in the early month of 2025, because getting a healthy, effective Huascar Brazoban like we've seen in the past can completely change the way this bullpen looks. But we went to the 7th inning. We're really just focused on pitching now. We got to see our first Luke Weaver appearance. So Weaver able to get a fly out of the top of the order from Nick Triolo, got O'Hearn to ground out to first base. That was another little iffy transfer from Jorge Polanco to a pitcher covering the first base. So something to note, not freaking out, just taking mental notes of all of this. And then was a base hit from Brian Reynolds, but a fly out after that of Ozuna. So nice little debut for Luke Weaver. I believe he had a K in this one as well. I'm sorry, he did not. But he did get 2 pop outs and a ground ball to first base. And then old reliable Brooks Raley, and I say old reliable, and I kind of mean it because the guy is 37, almost 38 years old, but man, Brooks Raley picking up right where he left off, picking off corners, both sides of the plate, using that sweeper, mixing in the fastball, the changeup. Brooks Raley continues to look good. He has a 1-2-3 inning in the 8th inning, including 2 strikeouts, but still scoreless to that point. The Mets had leadoff runners in the 7th and 8th. In fact, the first two batters of the 7th inning in Jorge Polanco and Luis Robert Jr. drew walks to put runners at 1st and 2nd. And the Mets ended up striking out their next 3 at-bats. Brett Beatty strikes out swinging, Simeon down swinging, and Carson Bench down swinging. As we mentioned before, maybe that would have been a chance where you could put Mark Vientos into pinch hit. It was against the lefty, Gregory Soto, former Met of all lefties, right? But the Mets ended up wasting really their best opportunity to that point in the day, in the 7th inning of the day, in the 7th inning. That was their first leadoff runner of the game, and I think only their 3rd base runner of the game. They only had 2 hits leading up to the 7th inning. 3 hits, excuse me. But we go back to the 9th, and we got to see the debut of Devin Williams. So a lot has been made about Devin Williams taking over the closer role for the New York Mets with Edwin Diaz departing for the Dodgers. And look, I liked what I saw. Obviously, you ended up having a double from Mangum. You had a walk that he issued, but he also was able to get 2 strikeouts in this one, including one to retire Reynolds with those runners on the corner. But I liked the way he looked. I liked some of the, the pitches he threw. I liked his sequencing. I liked his location. He looked sharp. They were able to really put up some decent at-bats, especially Ryan O'Hearn there with 2 outs and with Mangum on third. Really impressive plate discipline from O'Hearn to lay off of those changeups, those airbenders that he was throwing in there and draw the walk. But nice to see Williams just bounce right back and able to strike out Brian Reynolds immediately after that for a scoreless Mets debut. So look, not a save opportunity, but nice to see that there was no disaster immediately out of the gate for Devin Williams. So really good to know about our closer. Obviously, the 10th inning went to Luis Garcia. Look, it's just an unfair position to put any reliever in. The ghost runner on second, but Garcia looked okay. Got the first out. Unfortunately, did end up giving the base hit that scored the ghost runner, Brian Reynolds, to Nick Gonzalez to bring home the first run of the game. It was a base hit then from Loud to make it first and second. He ended up getting the fly out, and then it ended up being with 2 outs, a walk to, I believe it was Henry Davis, who was in the 8th spot at that point in the game. And then Mangum, who I was very fearful, the former Met prospect, was going to come through and deliver against this team. It's just what I'm conditioned to believe as a Mets fan. We've seen it a million times before. Hey, Mangum even had a double in this game. And don't forget, Gregory Soto had some pretty effective appearance against them as well in the later innings. So I was fully expecting Mangum to just blow one into the gap and make this a 4-run game, but really impressive job by Luis Garcia to get the ground ball out there to third base and keep it at 1-0. But we go to the 11th. It's 1-1. Obviously, we've talked about the bottom of the 10th, where the Mets failed with the top of their order and the bases loaded and nobody out. No need to rehash that again. But Richard Lovelady, you got to give it up for him. I mean, look, this is a guy that we all, and myself included, bemoaned when we found out he made the roster. We have seen the Richard Lovelady experience. Dude got DFA'd I don't know how many times over the last calendar year, and we, I think, as a fan base, wanted to go with even the lesser known but had some more success, I would say, Brian Hudson, at least in the past, than Lovelady ever has in his MLB career. But Lovelady came on and did his job today. Really, really solid job getting the first 2 outs of that inning. And like I said, ended up getting BABIP'd on that swinging bunt from Reynolds with 2 outs to score the go-ahead run there in the top of the 11th. But bared down, got the final out of that inning to keep it at 2-1. And look, that's the ultimate goal. If you're the home team in an extra inning game in this new ghost runner era of Major League Baseball, you just give up 1. You feel really good about your chances of at least tying the game in the next half inning. So hats off, round of applause, whatever you want to say for Richard Lovelady. Really solid job. So Huascar Brosbon, Luis Garcia, Richard Lovelady, 3 really, really impressive performances from guys that I think probably fall on the lower part of the totem pole for this bullpen. So happy about that. Let me go back to chat. I missed a lot here. Let's see. Who do we got here? Jimmy James, I felt a bit let down by Lindor and Soto not pulling through with a sac fly. It did make it feel like last year all over again. Glad it didn't matter in the end. That's exactly what I was saying, Jimmy. It felt exactly like a loss from 2025. Bases loaded, nobody out, top of the order. All you need is a ball in the air in the outfield to score a run on a sac fly, and you get the little ground ball to second from Lindor. The nubber from Soto, who, I mean, I don't know what he was swinging at. It was a slider that he tried to swing at that almost hit him and goes down the third base line. Again, tremendous play by the Pirates reliever to get that and shuffle it home. And then Bichette, who at that point, I'm going to be honest, look, I wasn't feeling super positive about it. All momentum is on Pittsburgh's side at that point, having gotten the 2 big boys in the lineup out there. And Bichette had been, has been not really looking super comfortable at the plate so far through these first first 2 games, and he ends up flying out to right field. So it did feel like that kind of loss, Jimmy, but glad, just like you, that we don't have to think about it at this point. Adam, odd question. Can you check how Starling Marte is? I can. I won't right this second, but I'll get to it in a second while I'm going through the rest of the stuff. Denise, go Mets. Great game. Absolutely, Denise. Welcome to the stream. Glad you're here, guys. If you're not subscribed, hit the sub button. Leave this video a like. Go ahead and do that now. Really appreciate it. Goes a long way toward helping out the channel. Trying to get to that goal of 6K by the end of April. The original goal was before opening day. We got close, so hey, hats off to you guys. Appreciate it. But we're trying to do that now by the end of April. A couple more here. Let's see who else. Blast Radius. New Mets pitching coach Justin Willard settling his pitcher down. Nice. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see. So far so good. Pitching staff has looked okay. Luis Garcia struggled a little on Thursday. Was pretty impressed with him being able to tightrope out of further damage in the top of the 10th inning there. Richard Lovelady looked solid. And like I said, Huascar Brazovan, I mean, bullpen does a really good job. It ended up being I think 5 2/3 innings and 2 unearned runs, both runs in this game, only scoring because of the ghost runner rule. So really, really happy about what we've seen out of the bullpen to this point so far. That 9th inning on Thursday, notwithstanding. Joe Saturn, let's see. Bo will be fine. Much more athletic than many of our past third basemen. Kingman, Husky, Huey, even Hojo made tons of errors. Yeah, I won't go back that far. I mean, unfortunately, I am, having grown up with David Wright as my third baseman, I was spoiled, right? I was really, really spoiled by having number 5 at the hot corner for most of my child and adolescence. So, we'll see what happens with Bo. I can live with a couple of, errant throws here and there if it means having a guy that hits 300 with runners in scoring position. Unfortunately, that has just not happened so far, but it's early. It's only 2 games. Can't get too high. Can't get too low, right? Neckman, gonna miss Howie making these calls. I know, man. I got to go listen to the Howie call right after we finish here. A-Rod, we need to give some credit to Polanco with his 5 walks in 2 games. This guy has shown me a lot of plate discipline. Yeah, I said that earlier. Huge shouts to Jorge Polanco. I focused in on him. 3 walks today, including the one in front of Luis Roberts' walk-off 3-run homer. I have been so impressed by him and his plate discipline. Just professional at-bats. Super, super professional at-bats. I'm right there with you. Who else do we got? Ralph Centrone. This team early seems to be built different. I see a lot of comeback wins this year. I hope so. Your lips to God's ears. That was a fun one. I mean, wasn't feeling like it was going to be a fun one until it was in the end. Very Danny, LGM, love it. Ray, LFGM, hope you get to 10K. Adam, thank you. I appreciate it. Best way we could do that is if you guys share this video with a Mets fan in your life, with a baseball fan in your life. Go hit that share button. Go put it on their Facebook wall. Send it to them in a text. We talk all Mets, all Major League Baseball here. So appreciate you doing that for me very much. And thank you, Adam. Ray, Tony always has a post-game show. Yes, sir, I do. Let's go, Mets. Let's go. Nice way to start the season. Absolutely. John, hey, John. What's up, Talento? LGM. Good to see you in here, John. A-Rod. Alonso, 5 currently has 4 Ks, 1 hit in 9 plate appearances. Polanco in 10 plate appearances has 1 strikeout, 5 walks, and a hit. Hey, I'm not going to do this the whole year, compare the guys, but I'm happy with what we've gotten out of Polanco so far, and I do believe that the Mets and Mets fans are going to be very pleased at the end of this year with what we get out of Jorge Polanco. I think he is going to hit 25 home runs, and I think he's going to continue to walk at a high rate like he's shown so far. He's a clutch guy too. I mean, that 10th inning, he could have tried, bottom of the 11th, he could have tried to be the hero there and get a base hit or hit a 2-run homer. I could think of a few former Mets that might have tried to do that in years past, but he took what the pitcher was giving him, nothing in the zone. He drew the walk. He passed the baton on to the next guy. It was a Louis Bob. He hit a 3-run walk-off homer. I mean, I think we're going to be really, really happy with what we get out of Jorge Polanco this season. Let's see. RM1042. Edgardo Alfonso is your third baseman before they moved into second. All right, so I was right on the cusp of that. I'm born 94, so I was in the Edgardo Alfonso third base years and then remember him moving to second. And then, of course, eventually I had to suffer through Ty Wigginton for a year or two before David Wright took over. And don't even get me started with Jason Phillips taking over behind the plate and trying to move Piazza at first base. Don't even get me started on that. Lovelady jersey. I saw a picture of a guy at the game yesterday with a Richard Lovelady jersey, so shouts to him. We'll go through the box score real quick, and then you guys let me know. You think we should go through some sound here? If you guys want to hear any post-game interviews from any of the guys, I think we'll probably not do Luis Robert, only because he'll, of course, have it translated through Suero there. So maybe we'll just hear from Mendoza, and I think Peterson probably spoke as well. By the way, I kind of glossed over it, but it was a solid performance from David Peterson. 5 1/3 innings pitch, gives up no runs. Obviously, it was 6 hits. He had 3 strikeouts and 2 walks. So we know the bugaboo with Peterson is losing the zone at times, especially when their wheels start to come off, especially after, maybe like an error like he experienced in the to lead off the top of the 5th inning there from Bichette. But really solid job from Peterson to bear down and have a solid debut for the season here. Like what we saw, I thought he was attacking the zone, mixing in his pitches, kept going with that curveball, even though we know really his slider is his out pitch. So really, really happy to see a nice performance from David Peterson in a contract year. So as big as it is for the Mets to get a good year out of Peterson, it's equally as big for David Peterson on a personal level to have a big season if he wants to, get a nice contract this offseason, whether that's from the Mets or from somebody else. So real quick, we'll go through it. Lindor 0 for 5. We know we've talked about it. Soto 1 for 5. I think I saw something like Juan Soto has been on base in 148 of 164 games since becoming a Met. I mean, just craziness, crazy stuff. Bichette does have his first base hit, but again, we've talked about it. It's been a little bit of a struggle at times. He's looked a little crazy up there, chasing more than you'd like to see. Polanco, no hits, but the 3 walks. Robert Jr., Louis Bob, we know, the 3-run bomb. Brett Baty 1 for 4, had the first hit of the game for the Mets in this game. Like I said, very nearly looked like he was going to have the walk-off double down the right field line in the bottom of the 9th, but it was Ryan O'Hearn who was able to scale the wall for that one, and not actually scale the wall, but climb the ladder, I should say, catch that line drive, pick it off out of the air, and then double off Polanco off a second to end the inning. But Carson Bench, hitless, 2 strikeouts in this one. So, hey, he's a rookie. It's going to happen. But nice to get base hits from 2 pinch hitters in this game, or 2 guys that came in off the bench. Vientos with the base hit there in the 10th, and then Luis Torrens with the game-tying hit right after him with the bases loaded. So, nice to see some guys getting a little bit of blow here off of the bench, even though Tyrone Taylor was only used as a pinch runner in, I believe, the 8th or 9th inning. 8th inning, I think it was. So, RM 1042, starting pitcher, still unknown. Well, it's McLean tomorrow. We do know that Nolan McLean is making his debut tomorrow. So yeah, we'll focus on, we'll do a little preview real quick of tomorrow's game right after this. Quickly, we'll listen to some sound, see if there's anything worth talking about here. David Peterson, like I said, we'll skip Robert just because he had the on-field interview earlier and he has the translator. So why don't we go through what the rest of the guys, including Carlos Mendoza, had to say. So here's Carlos Mendoza on the Mets at-bats today, which you might have caught my tweet. Not as disciplined as what we saw on Thursday. I get it. It's 40 degrees. It's windy. I don't want to be out there as a fan, never mind as a player either. So I kind of get it, but let's hear what Mendy had to say.
We're
there it is.
Still the type that you'd want, even when you weren't getting over the hump.
We created traffic. We got guys in scoring position. I thought we expanded a little bit today, to be honest with you, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. As long as we continue to create situations, traffic, get down in the 10th, Mark comes in and gets a big pinch hit single, Louis to tie the game, just kind of keeping the line moving. We just couldn't get the big one there with the big boys coming up. But we get down and you feel good about your chances because what you got coming out, even that the top of the order didn't get the job done. So
I'll stop him there. But, Mitch Keller has been amazing against the Mets in his career. A 2.06 earned run average, and I think at least 7 starts. He has a 6-1 record. He may have had more starts than that and had no decisions. But yeah, like I said before, his reputation preceded him today. There was a 1-2-3 first inning, a 1-2-3 fourth inning, or I'm sorry, fifth inning, and then another 1-2-3 inning somewhere mixed in there. Not a whole lot to show against Mitch Keller, and it's hard to put up good at bats against a guy that's just had your number. Now, I said earlier, this is a different group than obviously teams of the past from the New York Mets, especially even last year's. Keller really shut them down twice last year as well. But, he's a good pitcher. He's a number 3. He's a guy that we've talked about as a potential trade target for the Mets. And who knows? We'll see what happens with the Pirates. We'll see where the Mets rotation is sitting by July and whether they revisit that idea of trying to acquire Keller. Super affordable contract. Still got 3 years. I mean, this year plus 2 more after. So something to be talked about another day. But Keller was solid. Look, I think in the beginning, they Keller kind of had them on their heels a little bit and a little off balance. But as the game progressed, they definitely did start to take some better at bats. RM1042, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. $2. It goes to Mookie's Bone Fund. Mookie's taking a little nap over here, but I'll get him a bone with that $2 right there. Appreciate that, RM. Really do. Let's see. Neckman today was football weather without a doubt. Yeah. I don't live in New York, but it looked chilly. You saw the gators over the faces and around the head, so I can imagine it was very chilly out there. Not a lot of fun to, be in that type of weather, trying to take 100 miles per hour off the bat like that. All right, we'll listen to one about Luis Robert Jr. Let's hear what Robert Jr. had to say just about, it sounds like the atmosphere and, what it's been so far like in his first 2 games as a Met at Citi Field.
What does that feel like, especially in your second game as a Met?
Bastante bien. Bien especial el segundo juego.
Just fast forward to Suero, the translator.
No, it's real special. Honestly, I don't think I've hit a walk-off home run since 2020. So to be able to do it here, these last 2 games have really been special.
What does that feel like?
And I'm not sure who said it earlier in the chat here, but I do want to give you credit for saying that now that Luis Robert Jr. is out of the Chicago White Sox penitentiary, and let's call it what it is. It's like being in a prison on a team that's set to lose 100 games nearly every year. And he doesn't have to be the guy. He could just be a guy. Maybe this is going to unlock 2023 version of Luis Robert Jr. Maybe this is going to allow him to return to that 5-tool potential type of guy that is an elite Gold Glover in center field, that has power, that can put the ball in play, that has speed, has the arm. So fingers crossed that that is the case. But the early returns so far, again, only 2 games, but the early returns are very, very positive from Luis Robert Jr. Real quick, let's hear what David Peterson just had to say. Look, I'm not even going to candy coat it or sugar coat it, I should say. I do think that Peterson will ultimately be the guy we're most disappointed in this year. It's not because I don't think Peterson will be a serviceable starter this year. But again, this was a guy we drafted in the first round back in 2018, 2019 out of Oregon. There were very high hopes for him. I just don't think we'll ever get to that with him. But if you can just give me that number 3 guy that goes out, eats innings, gives you 5 to 7 every single night, probably, hopefully closer to 6 or 7, I will live with that. I just think the whole idea of him ever turning into a number 1 or even a number 2, you kind of got to throw by the wayside at this point. But nonetheless, really solid debut for David Peterson. Let's hear what he had to say today.
Feel overall about the outing?
Felt good. Felt like our plan was working, and Alvy and I were on the same page, and things were running pretty smooth. Nice to be able to get ahead of hitters and have the count in our advantage most of the day, and some really good plays on defense behind us, and so good first one.
How'd you feel overall about the outing?
Look, it was a career high in strikeouts for Peterson last year, but also partially because he had a career high in innings. I mean, he went 42 2/3 innings more than he ever did in any of his previous professional seasons last year, somewhere around the 163, 164 mark. So for me, I just want Peterson to be healthy. I want him to be able to go out there, make 30 starts, and like I said, pitch like a number 3. I'll be fine with that. Give me 6 innings every time you take the ball, every turn through the rotation. We don't know what the deal is with Sean Manaea. Obviously, right now he's in the bullpen. We will see. I still think that situation is fluid, and I think if there's a guy that really starts throwing up some clunkers, consecutively in the rotation right now, that Sean Manaea might get his opportunity again. But let's hope that is never the case, that never has to happen, that these 5 guys right now, Freddie Peralta, Clay Holmes, Nolan McLean, David Peterson, and Kodai Senga, go out there and form a really solid rotation. And you have Manaea as insurance and maybe a guy that can turn into a really effective left-hander out of the bullpen at some point. So interesting, by the way, I haven't seen Sean Manaea yet in either of these first 2 games. Don't know that there was really a situation to put him in unless you were expecting him to give you a couple innings in extras today, but still have not seen Sean Manaea. So we'll see if maybe tomorrow is that debut out of the bullpen for him here in 2026. Fun win today, guys. Really fun win. Again, a game that was looking like it was going to go down as a 2025 gut-wrenching loss, but fortunately, that is not the case. Real quick, I saw this here. Neckman, Nolan, under, over. You got to go over, under, man. Come on, over, under. That's how you say it. Over, under on 8 strikeouts. I'll give you a pass. I'm just kidding with you. Over, under 8 strikeouts for Nolan McLean tomorrow. I'm going to go under only because it's a lot. I mean, this is a pretty good Pirates lineup. I got to give them credit. Look, they didn't score much today, and their only 2 runs came from ghost runners. Not that the Mets lineup did much better, but this is a much better Pirates lineup. You can't sleep on it. Brian Reynolds, Ryan O'Hearn, Marcelo Zuna, O'Neill Cruz didn't get the start today. Lau is really solid. Magnum's a pesky little guy too, and Nick Gonzalez as well. I didn't already mention him. So they got a pretty good lineup. Neckman, I'm messing with you, man. I'm not either. But over-under is usually how they say it. But I like under-over. Let's do that. We'll start doing that. Meanwhile, let's preview tomorrow's pitching matchup. Nolan McLean starts what is technically still a rookie season for him. Last year was tremendous. The 2.06 ERA, 48 innings pitched, over 8 starts. We saw him in the World Baseball Classic. A lot of dumb fans, non-Mets fans want to try to pin the losses on USA by USA on him. I thought he was really solid in that second game. First one, a little shaky, but obviously you're not going to go too deep, so he didn't have a chance to really redeem himself. But look, this is a guy that a lot of people believe could turn into one of the top 15 starting pitchers in all of Major League Baseball, and it begins this year. So we will see. He has had praise heaped on him from all throughout the league, whether it be opposing players, whether it be analysts, opposing managers. So let's hope this is the year where he really starts to distinguish himself as one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. And going up against him is a guy that, man, I really liked during the offseason, a guy I really wanted the Mets to pursue. Obviously, the Pirates have tried to build a little bit of a team here, and so I can't imagine they would want to trade Carmen Malinsky, but that's the only reason I know how to pronounce his name, because I profiled a potential trade for the Mets with the Pirates and Carmen Malinsky. Fireballer of an arm, right-hander, big guy, 6'2", 3.25 earned run average in his career. Last season, I'm not sure what he did. Did he pitch full season in 2025? It looks like he was mostly making starts. Yeah, a little bit of time in the bullpen as well. I don't know why they didn't break it down for us just based on his 2025 season instead of 2000 or his career year. But last year, 3.55 earned run average in 34 games. 12 of those were starts, so he went 99 innings total. He's a strikeout guy from what I recall, 89 strikeouts in 99 innings. Maybe not as much as I remember, but a guy that I definitely was interested in the Mets taking a look at this offseason in a hypothetical trade. Obviously, that was not the case, but let's see what we could do tomorrow. The Mets are seeking a sweep to open the season. They will be heading out on the road immediately after this. It's a very weird schedule how they begin at home for 3, then go to St. Louis, then they're heading to the West Coast. I believe they're going to take on, if I'm not mistaken, who's on the schedule after that? Somebody help me. I think Arizona, potentially. Somewhere out on the West Coast they're heading to. immediately after St. Louis. So a 3-city road trip coming up. But Mets with a golden opportunity with what we hope is going to be their future ace in Nolan McLean on the mound, taking on the Buccos and a chance to go 3-0. But a very nice win today from the Mets. It was ugly. It wasn't the prettiest, but you take him anyway you could get him. Luis Robert Jr. with the walk-off 3-run homer. Guys, before you leave this video a like. Really appreciate that. Subscribe if you're not already subbed, and send this to a Mets fan in your life. Send this to a baseball fan in your life. Share it with them so we can keep growing the channel here, get to that goal of 6K by the end of April. But shouts to all you guys in the chat. John Talento, Adam, Neckman, A-Rod. There's so many more of you. I'm going to go through as many as I can real quick. RM1042, of course, a staple here. Very Danny. Thank you to Ray. Ray's my guy. Thank you to, who else do we got in here? Denise. Thank you to Jimmy James C, Tony HVAC. We got all the guys. Blast Radius. Really fun doing this with you guys. Sal Capello and Danny Caps, of course, as well. Who could forget those two guys? Thanks so much for tuning in. More content coming out on the channel tonight, as well as all the other platforms, as down in the video description. The description of this video down below. You can follow me on those: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. But for right now, that is going to do it. Mets win this one in extras. Final score of 4-2 on the Luis Robert Jr. walk-off 3-run homer. That is it for right now, though. Till next time, I'm Tony Metro. Stay true to the orange and blue.